One Piece is back this week with the release of chapter 1089 and things are becoming very interesting. In the last chapter we learnt about Kobe's first lesson with Garp, as well as how Kobe was captured by the Blackbeard pirates. Following this we got to see Garp ordering Kobe, Helmeppo and Groose to counterattack and take down the giant hand of Pizarro, which was about to destroy the escaping ship. Because of their combined effort they ended up saving the ship, and surprisingly during all of this we got to see a new powerful side to Kobe, which he had revealed via his Honesty Impact, which is an attack that he had honed and developed while he was training under Garp. With everyone safely on board the ship, Garp gives one final order for them to leave the island, because saving themselves is the highest priority right now, reiterating his belief that the youth have limitless potential and that everyone on board that ship right now is the future of the Marines. The last chapter of One Piece had ended with Kuzan appearing to have impaled Garp with his ice, which is now slowly freezing his body. This all happens while the Blackbeard pirates begin to surround him. Chapter 1088 had left us on the cliffhanger that Monkey D. Luffy had barricaded himself on Egghead Island, while a large fleet of marine warships is closing in on his location. I am beyond excited to dive into the events of this week's chapter. Just what is Luffy planning? How will the world react to the news about Garp's disappearance? And what will Kizaru and Saturn's next move be now that Egghead Island has been surrounded? One Piece chapter 1089 is titled Barricading Incident, and it promises to give us some answers along with some news about some strange earthquakes occurring across the globe which have been linked to the disappearance of the Lulusia Kingdom. Be sure to stick around until the end of the video for a theory on how Enies Lobby may be located above another famous island that was previously destroyed by Imu and the Gorosei. There is actually a lot to dive into, so without further delay, here is my breakdown and analysis of One Piece chapter 1089. The chapter begins at Dawn Island as we catch up with what is going on at Fuchsia Village, where the mayor Whoop Slap is reading the news about Garp's disappearance. Despite being concerned, he is confident that Garp will actually be okay. We then get to see Makino's son crying because all of the mayor's commotion, but he appears to calm down after seeing a photo of Luffy in the newspaper. Makino says to her infant son that he seems to have grown to like Luffy. There's been a lot of speculation online as to who the father of Makino's child is. I've heard crazy theories pointing at Garp, and even some people speculating that it could be Ace, but the most plausible theory that I have read is that the father is Shanks. Overall, it's nice that we got to catch up with everyone at Luffy's hometown. We then cut to Mount Kolubo. This is of course where Dan Dan and her family are based, and we see her reacting to the newspaper as she cries out asking what are Luffy and Garp doing. We then cut to several locations across the globe where earthquakes have been spotted, and this is all happening 6 days after the destruction of the Lulusia Kingdom. There appears to be a gigantic hole in the middle of the sea where the kingdom had once rested. Now what is fascinating is that the large crater in the sea is strangely reminiscent of the hole located underneath Enies Lobby. We are aware that the world government stronghold Enies Lobby is basically a floating island located above a large hole within the ocean. This has resulted in an oversized waterfall forming as the water spills over into a black void of nothing. Until now we didn't know how this hole was created, but following the destruction of the Lulusia Kingdom we are seeing a very similar hole form. Now this has led to some theories that Enies Lobby was constructed over an island that was destroyed in the past. Some have speculated that this could be the missing island God Valley. Additionally, I've theorized in an earlier video on my channel that God Valley may have been the birthplace of the devil fruits, hence why the world government and Imu may have deemed it necessary to destroy this island in a similar manner to how they had destroyed the Lulusia Kingdom recently. While this theory may be plausible upon initial inspection, I want you to stick around until the end of the video because I actually disprove this theory, which undoubtedly will be spreading like crazy because One Piece is on a break next week, so expect a lot of theories on this idea. Several familiar faces are seen reacting to the earthquakes, including Momonosuke in Wano Kuni, Iceberg in Water 7, Hina in Marine HQ, and we even see Imu in Merijo, as well as the prisoners in Impel Down, the citizens of Logtown, and lastly Ivankov on the Kamabaka Queendom. This highlights the scale of the widespread impact following the destruction of Lulusia. The environmental impact is catastrophic as sea levels across the world have risen by 1 meter. There are even some islands that have been submerged by the rising levels. We cut back to Fuchsia Village where the citizens and the mayor watch helplessly as the tides around Dawn Island are seen to be rising. Then finally, after a good few chapters, we cut back to Egghead Island as we see it surrounded by a fleet of marine battleships. Kizaru effortlessly destroys one of Vegapunk's sea beast weapons with a simple beam attack attack. Kizaru appears to have not started the attack on Egghead yet because he doesn't want to cause too much damage to the island. Kizaru calls Sentomaru asking him to surrender, but Sentomaru declines. We then see a flashback of a younger Kizaru showing his beam attack to a young Vegapunk and Sentomaru who was just a child at the time. Kizaru is sitting on the ground while he shoots beams with his finger into the air. Sentomaru states that Uncle Vegapunk had developed the Pacifista's lasers by doing research on Kizaru's power. He says that he cannot believe he is now the one coming to kill him. Kizaru says that unfortunately he cannot cover for the forbidden research that Vegapunk has been doing into the Void Century. He explains to Sentomaru that he is just following orders and this isn't anything personal. Egghead Island has been surrounded by over 100 marine battleships with 9 admirals on board and 30,000 marine soldiers also present, which include the likes of Saint Saturn and Kizaru. It is revealed that Doberman and Doll are also among the vice admirals, as well as some new faces who we had briefly seen within chapter 1078. Saint Saturn is seen eating food inside his room, with Vice Admiral Doberman entering and reporting on the current situation. We get a much needed recap of the events that have currently transpired on Egghead Island, as we learn the current whereabouts of the Straw Hats, CP0, Vegapunk, and the Seraphim. Saturn orders Doberman to sink a ship that had escaped the island earlier, which was full of researchers. Meanwhile, York has called Mary Jo and is complaining about why they are trying to kill her, along with the other Vegapunks and the Straw Hats. Following the success of the destruction of Lulusia, it seems like they may keep York around to help them create more weapons like Mother Flame. We find out that York had sent Mother Flame to the Gorosei, and the power plant used to create more of the weapon is located on Egghead Island. York makes the Gorosei promise that they will not hurt her or the research lab, and lastly requests that they will make her a world noble. The Gorosei agree to her demands, as we see Kizaru and Saturn also listening in on the conversation. Towards the end of the chapter, we see that York is making the call while crying, as we see Zoro's sword over her neck and Usopp holding the Denden Mushi to her mouth. York ends the call by screaming, "Save me from Luffy," in this really funny way, which is just such a callback to Enies Lobby, where Robin had asked Luffy to save her, but now the tables have been turned as someone pleads with the world government to save them from Luffy instead. The Gorosei, including Saturn and Kizaru, who are listening, are shocked because they were under the impression that York and the Seraphim had defeated everyone before making the call. The final double spread of the chapter reveals that the Straw Hats, along with Bonnie, Lucci, and the real Vegapunk, are just taking it easy while the distressed York is laying in front of them. The chapter ends with Luffy saying that they just have to use York as a shield so that they can escape the island. Unfortunately, One Piece is on another break next week, but in the meantime there have been plenty of theories and points of speculation circulating following the release of this week's chapter. There was a lot of disappointment that the battles between the Straw Hats and the Seraphim had taken place off screen. Now there is hope that after next week's chapter break, Oda gives us a flashback revealing how everything had gone down, because everything was fairly chaotic over on Egghead Island, but we now cut back to the situation abruptly and all of the conflicts have been suddenly resolved. Now this will be similar to how we recently had the flashback revealing how Kobe was captured by Blackbeard's crew, as well as how the conflict on Amazon Lily had resolved. So yeah, I really am hoping for a brief flashback to see some of the highly anticipated battles against the Seraphim unfold. On the other hand, there has been a lot of praise and support for how the Straw Hats were able to demonstrate that they are more than capable of dealing with the Seraphim off screen, which proves just how far they have come, and they are in fact worthy of holding the title of a Yonko crew. They have reached a point where battles like this are just not a challenge to them anymore. There have also been some jokes thrown around that Luffy is a Yonko now and he has acquired the powers of the off-screen fruit, allowing us to now skip past any minor battles so that we can focus on the larger events unfolding within the One Piece world. Additionally, the Straw Hats have been praised for their strategic handling of the situation at Egghead Island, in particular with how York has been taken as a hostage. They forced her to demand that the Gorosei make her a world noble, which would incidentally limit the options for the Marines that are currently circulating the island. York has now become a bargaining chip for the Straw Hats, especially since we have learnt that she was the one who had given Mother Flame to the Gorosei, so they need her in order to manufacture more of this weapon. The Straw Hats have definitely leveled up, and the likes of Kizaru and Saturn have been underestimating them, especially if they really believed that the Seraphim were enough to take them down. Because Luffy and the gang are no longer rookies, they are a Yonko crew. There is every possibility that Luffy and the others could eliminate Kizaru or even Saturn, which would really be a game-changing event in the series and would elevate their bounties to insane heights. The situation on Egghead Island is intense, but the Straw Hats are not sitting idly. They have their own strategy to escape the island. However, with the the involvement of Blackbeard's crew, it could disrupt the plans of both the Marines and the Straw Hats. There is also this wild card that the Gorosei may launch Mother Flame again and destroy Egghead Island, with a weapon of mass destruction aimed at them and an entire fleet of Marines under their nose. This isn't going to be a smooth exit for the Straw Hats. It is likely that this will be a last resort though, as currently Egghead Island is the only place in the world capable of producing the Mother Flame weapon. We don't know whether if this weapon is a one-time use thing, or if it can be mass produced, and more importantly, what other secret technologies can be found on Egghead Island, which is the most technologically advanced island in the world. Interestingly, we see neither Robin nor Strussi during this chapter. If they aren't with the main Straw Hat crew, then where are they? Could they be researching the mysteries of Egghead Island? Perhaps they have found some ancient technology or information from the Void Century that was simply too important not to focus on, and it may have its own dedicated chapter later on. We'll have to wait until the next few chapters of One Piece to find out where on earth Robin and Strussi are. I spoke about this Enies Lobby being built upon the ruins of God Valley theory earlier on in the video, and it is probably going to be circulating like wildfire during the week break for the next chapter. I'm going to prove why this theory actually has no merit to it. Oimo, along with his friend Kashi, who are the giants from Elbaf who were captured 50 years ago and tricked into guarding the main gate of Enies Lobby, had also been protecting the gate for 50 years. Now we know that the God Valley incident had occurred 38 years ago. Now this disproves that God Valley was destroyed by a weapon like Mother Flame, and Enies Lobby was built on top of it. This is because Enies Lobby has existed longer than most fans had assumed. Maybe Enies Lobby was built upon another island that was destroyed in the past, but one thing's for certain, it wasn't built upon the ruins of God Valley. This again is just speculation because we don't really know the real reason as to why there is a giant hole under the world government stronghold, but I am confident that Oda is going to explain this secret eventually down the line. So that was One Piece chapter 1089. We had learnt about the shocking aftermath following the destruction of the Lulusia Kingdom, the insane developments happening on Egghead Island, and not to mention the impressive way that the Straw Hats have appeared to have dealt with the Seraphim all off screen, while at the same time having come up with a strategy to outsmart the fleet of marine battleships surrounding them. I am beyond excited to find out about what happens next. I'm hoping for a flashback where we get to see more of Kuma's memories. I'd also love to find out how the Straw Hats had defeated the Seraphim and what Kizaru and Saturn are planning on doing next. Yet again, One Piece is on a break next week, so unfortunately we will have to wait a little while longer to learn the answers to some of these burning questions. But in the meantime, let me know all of your thoughts on chapter 1089 of One Piece. Were you pleased or disappointed by the fact that the events on Egghead Island were off-screened? Are you impressed by the fact that Luffy and the crew have proven that they are worthy of the Yonko rank and they are not to be underestimated? And overall, what are your theories about the catastrophic rising of the sea levels and the earthquakes following the destruction of Lulusia? As always, I look forward to reading the discussions in the comments, and be sure to share your theories and speculations with me. And lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you in my next One Piece video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.